Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, and thanks for those kind words. I think the issue that is on everybody's mind right now is this deficit reduction plan that was voted on earlier this week. I voted no on that, and I did for a number of reasons. This plan is grotesquely unfair. As I think most listeners know, the middle class in this country is doing terribly, terribly badly. Real unemployment is probably over 16%, counting people who've given up looking for work and people who are working part-time. There was just a piece in the paper today that recent released data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows an all-time high in food stamp recipients, 45.8 million people receiving food stamps. Senior citizens and disabled vets have gone without a COLA for the last 2 years. Older workers, if they're lucky enough to find a job, are often working at new jobs that pay substantially less than their previous job. You got millions of working-class families desperately trying to be able to send their kids to college, not able to do that. Same thing with child care. So we are in for working families and low-income people, these are terrible, terrible times. And on the other hand, for the wealthiest people in this country, these are great times. You have a growing gap between the very rich and everybody else. You have the top 400 wealthiest people in this country owning more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans, and that gap is growing wider. Common sense, morality, any sense of decency suggests that if you're going to go forward in deficit reduction, it has to include shared sacrifice. You simply cannot come down hard on the elderly, on the sick, on children, on the lowest income people, the unemployed, and leave millionaires whose effective tax rate now is lower than it's been in decades, leave large multinational corporations who are making billions in profits and in some cases paying nothing in taxes, leave those guys outside of the equation altogether. They don't have to make 1 cent, pay 1 cent to a deficit reduction. It falls all on the middle class and working families. I think that is grotesquely immoral. It is the Robin Hood proposal in reverse. We take from the poor and we give to the rich. Second of all, in terms of economic policy, it is a disaster. Conservatively, what we hear from economists is this plan will cost us some 300,000 jobs at a time when we can't afford to lose one job. Now, when I turn on the news, what I constantly hear, and it really does annoy me, is the politics of all this. Like, sometimes these news guys think this is a game. It's the Yankees versus the Red Sox. It is not a game. This decision, this deficit reduction deal, will have a negative impact on tens of millions of Americans. And I want to spell out, if I might, Tom, because I don't think the media has done a very good job on this, just exactly what we're talking about. Now, having said that, the first tranche is $900 billion in cuts in discretionary spending. Okay, now what does that mean? Well, we can't say exactly what programs are going to be cut because that decision will be made in the coming months by the various appropriations committees. No one can say exactly. But let me tell you what I think at least is on the chopping block. If you're a working parent right now and you're getting some federal help for child care or for Head Start, worry. Because my guess is that those programs will be significantly cut. If your kid is in a public school and it gets Title I education money, worry, because those programs will likely be cut. If you are in a family that wants to send your kids to college but doesn't have the money, then you got to worry because federal aid for working class families to go to college will likely be cut. If you know people or yourself are having a hard time getting enough money together in order to eat properly, and we have millions of people who are dealing with hunger issues, kids, senior citizens, worry, because there will clearly be cutbacks in nutrition programs. If you want 50 million Americans today who has no health insurance and you utilize a neighborhood community health center, that's something I have fought very, very hard for. We've expanded those clinics. Worry, because it is likely that community health centers will be cut. And if you're living in a city or town which has a budget problem, which almost all do, and you've seen layoffs for police officers or firemen or librarians worry because there will be more cuts in federal aid in those programs. If you're a construction worker, you should worry because federal aid for roads and bridges and water projects, sewage, public transportation will likely be cut as well. That's only, Tom, the first $900 billion. You with me?
Yeah.
Now we go to the next part, which is a super committee made up of 6 Democrats, 6 Republicans.
The Gang of 12.
The Gang of 12. Now, their mandate is to look at everything, every single thing. Once again, nobody can predict. I don't want to suggest for a moment that I know what this Gang of 12 will do. But everything is on the table. That's the mandate. That means Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. What do we know? We know that our Republican friends, for years and increasingly in the last number of months, are hell-bent on cutting back on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's what we know. We know very, very sadly that the President of the United States has reversed his position from what he campaigned on and is also talking about cutting back on Social Security, perhaps raising the eligibility age for Medicare to 67 from 65, be a total disaster, and also making cuts in Medicaid. All of that, veterans programs, it's on the table. Does that mean to say they will be cut? No, it does not. I do not know what's going to happen. Nobody does. My fear is that the Republicans from day one have been very tough, and they have said, you are not going to raise taxes on the rich. You're not going to do away with the loopholes that enable large corporations like General Electric, ExxonMobil, and other big companies who make billions in profits, in some cases, to pay nothing in federal income tax. You're not going to touch that because we are here to defend the rich and large corporations. And time after time, we have seen the Democrats retreat. If one Democrat out of those 6 on the Democratic side goes over to the Republicans, it could be a disaster. Am I saying that's going to happen? No, I'm not. It may well be that it ends in deadlock, 6-6. What happens if it ends in deadlock? If it ends in deadlock, then there is about $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period. Everything I'm talking about is a 10-year period in what they call sequestration, which is a fancy word for saying across-the-board cuts. If that happens, what the language reads, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid will be exempt, and veterans programs exempt from those cuts. That's a good thing. But it means that they're going to be, then they'll also have to go after other discretionary programs even more significantly.
Things like low-income heating programs, children assistance programs, child care.
The other half of it calls for cuts in military spending. So, roughly speaking, $500 billion discretionary, $500 billion military. It will be a disaster for working families, and we've got to focus on that issue.
Sir, my question is with those senators, the 12 senators or whatever, there's the gang. What are they? Aren't they going to abridge the 14th Amendment, where no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States?
Well, I don't.
Any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law?
Well, that's not my. That's a good question, Linda. But I think that is not my major worry. And again, the members of that 12-person committee will be appointed by Nancy Pelosi, Democratic leader in the House, John Boehner, Republican leader, the Speaker in the House, Mitch McConnell, Republican leader in the Senate, and Harry Reid, Democratic leader in the Senate. Those will be the 12 people. My major concern is, and this is how the process will work. The process works is you'll have this 12-person committee. If a majority reaches an agreement, if it's, say, 7-5 or 12-0, whatever it is, then it goes to the House and the Senate without any amendments. In the Senate, it will require 51 votes to pass. So my worry is right now that if I think it is more likely, although nobody can predict the future, I think it is more likely that a Democrat might kind of cave in and go with the Republicans, and then 51 votes can pass something in the Senate which could be very bad, and it would likely pass in the House. So that is my fear. The Republicans have been very clear. I don't know, Tom, if you've heard what Boehner and Mitch McConnell have had to say. Basically, what they're saying is, hey, we're not going to appoint people to this committee who are going to raise taxes.
Yeah, no, we've played that audio and video on this program.
Yeah.
They're very explicit about it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, Nancy Pelosi yesterday said she wasn't drawing any bright lines in the sand, which made me very nervous.
Yeah, well, I think it's time for us to draw some lines in the sand and learn that the Republicans have been winning this whole debate. And what amazes me, and here's the irony, every single poll out there shows that the Republican position of no tax breaks on the wealthy, defending high military spending, protecting loopholes for large corporations, that is a minority position. Vast majority of the American people want shared sacrifice. The Republicans don't. And within the Beltway in Washington, they are winning. And that just seems to me to be an outrage.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, what's our time right now? Oh, 40 seconds. Bernie, we just have 40 seconds until we rejoin our commercial stations. If you just want to take that and expand on that point.
All right. I think the point is very clear. The American people believe in fairness. They understand that working families are struggling. They do not believe that you balance the budget on the backs of people who are sick, with cuts in health care, with children who need the best education possible. That's what the American people believe, and we should stand with the American people and not with the big money interests.
There you go.